for joining us today for this very important webinar on the collapse of Anugrah Broking and its consequences that the investors are forced to bear. So this webinar has been organized by Moneylife Foundation, and we are a 10-year-old non-profit, and our primary goal is to spread financial literacy and help consumers to address their issues which specifically impact them. So before we go live, can I ask founder trustee of Moneylife Foundation, Sucheta Dalal madam, to introduce our speakers for the evening? Ma'am, over to you.
Good evening and welcome to this very special seminar. I'm absolutely grateful to Mr. P.R. Ramesh and Mr. Sumit Agarwal, both lawyers with long stints in the Securities and Exchange Board of India, for having agreed so readily to come within 2 days. We're doing this really fast so that all of you who are victims of Anugraha and Teji Mandi and badly affected know the way forward, because that is crucial. So allow me to introduce our speakers today. Mr. P.R. Ramesh, Advocate P.R. Ramesh practices securities law at the Bombay High Court. He has spent over 20 years in the capital market, which includes a stint in SEBI. As part of this was as executive assistant to the chairman with the bird's eye view to things. And he has been a general manager there. He's handled multiple compliance investigations and functions in and around the capital market field. Advocate Sumit Agarwal has worked with the legal department of SEBI, so you can't get better than that. He left to set up Red Street Law Advisors. He loves to be a faculty on securities laws with various management institutes, and he's also written a really comprehensive book on the SEBI Act. So we can't get better than this today in terms of the legal advice that you need. I hope all of you are going to make the best opportunity, and let's stick to generics so that we have a plan of action that everybody can use. And before we start the session and before I hand over to Mr. Ramesh, there are certain ground rules which my colleague Arvind is going to tell you. You have to follow those. Over to you, Arvind.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So like ma'am mentioned, we need a few ground rules in place because it's easy for all of us. There are almost 450 people here. First thing is we have kept all of you on mute deliberately so that we can focus early on the speakers for the day. And if you have any questions, we'll unmute you during the Q&A. For optimal viewing, we request you to keep your webinar on speaker view. This entire meeting is being recorded and it will be uploaded on our YouTube channel, Moneylife TV. During the Q&A, sincere request, please use the raise hand button that is available in Zoom if you wish to ask us any questions. Also, please note, if your cameras are switched on, then your homes and your backgrounds are also visible to us. So in case you wish to protect your privacy, then please keep your cameras switched off. So with these ground rules, without taking too much of your time, Advocate Ramesh ji, over to you, please.
Yeah, thank you, Sujita madam, Arvind, and the entire Moneylife team. So let me start with a disclaimer as usual. So I've accepted to address the investors because I'm not advising Anugrah or any of these broking entities. And this is the first disclaimer, and so I have no conflict of interest in about what I am talking. So I'm not even advising the clearing corporation or NSE or CDSL or any of these things. Okay, so when we are looking at this type of Anugrah type of problem, see, I've been watching the markets for a long time, and I've been associated in the markets right from 92, Harshad Mehta, then Ketan Parekh scam we have seen and all. So what's happening is the investors are still not accustomed to how to handle the broking entities and the entire systems and processes. And in this particular Anugrah case, so prior to Anugrah, we had Karvi, we had BMA, we had India Nivesh, we had a lot of issues. But still, I think this algorithmic trading was a sort of a tempter which actually made a lot of investors gave money, and maybe 18%, 19% returns they were able to generate. And I know for sure that Teji Mandi was telling people about so these are all very safe because they are basically covered options, and you will easily get 18% returns and all. But when the market becomes adverse, actually, so this is going to happen. So, but if it is typically a market risk, I think the investors have a right and a duty to go by the market risk. But this is beyond a market risk. This is actually a fraud. Okay, but how this type of fraud is happening, continuing to happen after so many years is a big issue. I have a lot of ideas of basically the legal process we'll have to initiate to bring the clearing corporation and the clearing member to task in this type of situation. So until this is done, no, see, when the Kazan Parekh problem happened, the entire markets changed after that. The entire settlement systems, everything changed. I think we have to shake up the system. So typically this sort of thing doesn't get repeated again and again. So I will leave it to, with his opening remarks, I will just ask my colleague Amit to say a few words.
Thank you, Rameshji. Well, situation we as investors today is actually very patchy and very difficult. While COVID itself was very difficult, this situation has made it much more difficult. Let me start with the disclaimer, as even Mr. Ramesh said, most of us are not advising any of the clearing members or the broker or any of the associate entities in this. This entire program, thanks to Moneylife Foundation, Ms. Sucheta Dalal and the entire team, that what could be done in the investors' interest was the theme. And with that theme keeping in mind, while we as professionals are not on any of the sides, but we have our heart to the investors. With that motto in mind, let me first give an overview of what has happened in this matter, what are the informations which is available in public domain. Sucheta ji, can we start with a small slider? So what we've done is that in this entire story, which is evolving story, the facts are emerging on a day-to-day basis. We've divided the entire information into 4 parts. What is evolving? What are the actions which have happened till today? What are the usual or the general provisions in law? And what are the possible next steps which investors could look at? And having said this, let us also remember that these all discussions are only from the educational perspective, no specific legal advice, which is completely dependent upon each person's facts and situations and the documents available. Let's just see what has happened till now. Please come to the next slide. What has happened is, if you see, the entire issue started with National Stock Exchange coming up with an order barring Anugrah's trading rights in the FNO segment. This happened on August 3rd. What information is available today? The media is filled with reports that several investors, including some of you, had dealt with a company, Tezi Mandi Analytics. Today, nobody knows in terms of information what were the interlinkages in the books of Anugrah and Tezi Mandi. Are they associate companies? While if somebody sees the MCA 21 database on the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, you will find that the common email IDs are there between them. However, what are the interlinkages? Today, unless an investigation or a forensic audit happens, is difficult to say. But the media is filled with estimating an amount of something over and above 1,000 crores. The different kind of schemes have been claimed. Some were assured monthly returns, some were a kind of a Ponzi scheme, so to say. There were cases where it was a pure covered option scheme. So different clients have had different kind of exposure in different schemes. Now, since investors had signed the comprehensive power of attorney with Anugrah and in many cases even with Tezi Mandi, obviously their shares, mutual funds, units, cash was used to pay mark-to-market losses. Now, in any of these kind of issues, one will have to look at the documentation which will be the basis for making any claims, and based on those claims only recovery is possible. Now, if one were to see, there are also claims that some of the contract notes which have been issued to the clients are fake contract notes. Now, from what point of time it's felt that these contract notes were fake, that will also become a question. Some of the investors, as media suggests, have approached various high courts as well, including the Bombay High Court. Let's come to the next slide. Now, on August 3rd, there was an NSC order. In immediately against NSE's debarment of Anugrah, halting their FNO segment, the matter went to Securities Appellate Tribunal. Securities Appellate Tribunal, while the trading, they put in the condition of 165 crore rupees to be deposited with National Stock Exchange. Matter is yet pending. It's not final. In the middle, some of the investors have approached Bombay High Court. In one case, Bombay High Court had said that till the time the information is assimilated, decided, we are passing a direction that Anugrah should not be allowed to alienate its assets. A lot of investors also approached subsequently, where it was said that other than ordinary course of business, Anugrah cannot transfer its movable, immovable assets, and it will in fact even file its bank account statements and the exposure, including the encumbrance on their properties, before the Bombay High Court. This matter is also pending right now. Now, this is at least, if not a full breather, some kind of a relief to all the investors that High Court is seized of the matter. But let's see further. What happens usually in these kind of cases? In any of these kind of cases, come to the next slide, please. In any of these kind of cases, there are various laws which kicks in, and various advisors will have various strategies depending upon the documentation available of the client and the client's exposure to the broker or the associate of the broker. You have SEBI, obviously under SEBI Act, SCRA and Depositories Act, they can do investigation, search and seizure, impose monetary penalty, including cancellation of license. Obviously against the broker, they can also take actions for various securities frauds, including for falsifying records. What is most important is, since the entire issue came to fore only after National Stock Exchange doing its inspection, NSE and BSE's bylaws and their regulations are going to kick in. Now, what has happened is, people have approached Bombay High Court under Section 9 of Arbitration Conciliation Act, which means that before an arbitration between or is even initiated, we have an apprehension that Anugrah may run away with the assets. So to that extent, some investors have approached Bombay High Court to protect their claim and debarring the Anugrah and his entities to alienate these kind of assets, so that if your claim is successful in arbitration, through those liquidation of assets, your recoveries could happen. Equally, since there are elements in all of these kind of matters for criminal breach of trust, for forgery, for cheating, so the criminal laws like Indian Penal Code or Money Laundering Act or Maharashtra Protection of Investors Depositors Act, all of these applicability is also to be seen. As I said, the facts are still evolving, so nobody has a full grip on the facts as on today. Now let's see what are the two challenges which are going to be from a broad view perspective. Can we have the next slide, please? See, the investors are going to have one big challenge, which is from the other side as well as from the judiciary or from any reasonable person. A question is going to come. If you are dealing with some kind of an unregistered entity, do you have an entitlement of protection under investor protection laws? And that is where your representation has to be so carefully crafted based on your documentation that you should fall in the category of an investor who can claim rights in the investor protection laws. Second, is it a case where Anugrah, being a registered stockbroker, clearing member being a member of a clearing corporation, stock exchange being involved, when there are periodic inspections, is there some amount of lack of due diligence or a failure, so to say, by SEBI and stock exchanges in their annual inspection in failing to nitpick this kind of a problem. So these are two broad policy issues. Once this broad umbrella is covered in your representations, then the specifics one will have to do. For the specifics, what one needs to do as an investor. Let's go to the next slide. First come first, I know a lot of investors have been saying on this forum and otherwise that they do not have full information. There are equally investors who were lax, so to say, and they had not kept the information with them. So whatever information is available out of at least these documents, you have to collect these documents as early as possible and then see what are the options available. Now, demat holding statement, contract notes, margin statement, your income tax returns for at least last 3 years, your profit statement, which has been provided by Teji Mandi, your global profit statements, or if there is any email correspondence which has happened with Anugrah or Teji Mandi. There are cases where even you have received some kind of an SMS for a trade or for a balance. If you can locate those, please keep that as well. Whatever KYC documents you had signed while opening up of an account, if you have a copy of that, please keep that as well. Let's see the next slide. Now, today, what are the options? You obviously have stock exchange, which has an investor service cell. Investor grievance redressal portal is there. Where every investor can go and file a claim. Once that is registered in IGRP, then the arbitration process starts. One can file a complaint to SEBI directly as an investor, investor grievance mechanism under SCORS. One can directly also write to SEBI to conduct investigation to claim that I don't even have the documents enough to file a complaint or to consider what is the amount which is due to me because the papers are not matching. Now, in that kind of a situation, you may want to have information from Anugrah, and if Anugrah is not providing information, you are well within your rights to write to SEBI seeking an investigation or procuring information from Anugrah by SEBI providing it to you. These are the legal rights which are available to you under investor protection laws. Obviously, one can, after the complaints received by SEBI, SEBI can adjudicate the matter for monetary penalty, or SEBI can cancel or suspend the license of Anugrah. SEBI can even do the criminal prosecution for imprisonment of the individuals involved. But the question really comes, while these may be the penal actions, how do I get my money back? For that aspect, obviously, High Court is one measure. If there was a SEBI order, or if there was a full-fledged finding from the stock exchange as to what is your claim, what is the availability of funds, then against the stock exchange order or SEBI order, you could have gone to Securities Appellate Tribunal. As on today, there is no press release, order, or an indication from SEBI what is SEBI's stand in this matter. In terms of criminal laws, of course, one has economic offense wing to say that we have an apprehension, all the documents at the Anugrah's end may be destroyed. And in those grounds, including for criminal law cheating, one can go to economic offense wing. Now, some of these authorities are available. Every approach in this has some limitations as well as some benefits. Each person's case is slightly different, but all I can say at this stage is that first come first, you need to put in your claim in the system of stock exchange and SEBI so that your complaint is registered with them in terms of what is the amount which you are seeking and as on what date you are putting in the documents in their docket. Having said this, I think over to Mr. Ramesh to provide some kind of a view whether we should be going to High Court or whether we should be going to Securities Appellate Tribunal at this stage.
Yeah, thank you, Sumit. Very well summed up. See, as Sumit says, firstly, the most important thing the investors have to do now is to compile the information and put it on the SEBI scores site. And the exchanges, they have to immediately lodge a complaint. So each individual investor has to do the complaint separately so that see the number of investors are also known, and they have to be very clear. See whether you are having only a broking account, a DP account, and today you are not received back the securities or the funds also, and whether you know about the what happened to your last open position. So you have to be very clear about what you state in the complaint. So please do that immediately. I think that will also ensure the SEBI system is flooded with investor complaints, which will force SEBI to take some action. Now coming to the next issue of now which forum we should approach. See, my personal view is that we should actually pressurize SEBI, which can actually direct the depository and the clearing corporation, or maybe see that we have to look at two things. So the first thing is there will be a lot of investors who just gave the funds, or only their securities are lying or lying in their demat account. Basically, if they are still able to see the securities in the demat account, maybe we should push for an order like in the Karvi matter, where the securities are transferred back by the depository to the investor. So this should actually settle some of the investors. But wherever the money is stuck or there are open positions, this is going to be a slightly longer game. And now the way I have seen the order of SAT and also the order of the High Court, see, and maybe some of the statements made by Anugrah itself is that so there has been a fraud. Okay, this is not a case of a mere dispute or my claim not being paid on time or some contract note rates and all. It's a case of sheer fraud which has happened. And my personal view is we should not be going for an arbitration at this stage, because exchange will also push us to go for arbitration. But see, there is no arbitration in the case of a fraud. Okay. Now we can say typically we have to go and complain to the EOW. Yes, we have to go, but not at this stage. My personal advice is, if you go for a criminal offense, criminal agency immediately, they will see, they will step in and they will seize the records, they will seize the systems and all these things. This is typically what Anugrah wants, because they are not reconciled. They are nobody knows what is the truth. So we will not be, each investor will not be able to get their information, data, and it will be very difficult to. We have to go to them at the appropriate stage after we push SEBI. Let us at least get the one set of investors where only securities are lying with no trading or no debit balance. We should try to get those securities back. The next set of investors, once I think we should push for a suit in the Bombay High Court, where we drag the clearing corporation and also the clearing member. See, my personal view is when there is see what Anugrah has done here, it has stolen the money of the investors and settled the trades of somebody else. Okay, so this type of fraud which happens, there is in equity and in law there is a system for tracing all these stolen properties. So we have to see to what extent we can go and trace the property, because see, if Anugrah had not done the fraud, the money would have been paid by the clearing corporation from out of the settlement guarantee fund. Therefore, my personal view is we have to drag an exchange and the clearing corporation. Whatever they may say about we are not liable, whatever rules, bylaws, see, these are all which they are going to say. But I feel we have to push it to that extent so that it becomes a national issue. Once you drag the exchange and clearing corporation, so then only people will sit up and see this is a bigger issue happening in the market again and again. So we have seen BMA, we have seen Karvi, we have seen Alid, now one more. So this is happening again and again and again. So therefore some system must be there of monitoring. So we will come to that. We will not today get into who is to blame for this. We will say that we will have to get an attachment. We'll try to get an attachment on the settlement guarantee fund itself. Then everybody will come back and say they have to go on affidavit to say what they have done, whether they exercise diligence or not. So my personal view is to go to SEBI first. Just please, rush with all your complaints on the SEBI portal, so that SEBI is aware that like there are at least 1,000 complaints are there, and the matter is taken seriously. Let one set of investors get back their securities if it is possible, and then we will simultaneously go to the High Court for a sort of a directions here. So if SEBI is not doing it, definitely though we can approach the SAT also. I'm very sure SAT will be favoring us with a good order, because SAT has seen Karvi, and they have been seeing the other cases like this.
And Rameshji, interestingly, don't you think that in our experiences, exchange also takes time in declaring brokers as defaulters? Because if you declare a broker as a defaulter, obviously the claims processing kicks in. So till the time defaulter is not declared, the investors are left in lurch. And since we know that the investors are required in this case to shake up the system, they should unite together and have a single strategy rather than weakening their own cases by taking different stands.
No, I totally agree with you. There should be some joint forum if possible to do all this. So, but to just generate the numbers, and to make the investors actually collect the data. So, your point of each of them filing on the scores and with the exchange separately is the most appropriate thing. And definitely, if there is a joint forum created and you want to fight it out, I think that is the best thing. So, I think you can get a lot of release if you're fighting it jointly. Because anyway, SAT or High Court is going to club all the matters,
Correct. Correct. Should we take...
So I want to pick up the questions, right? So can I kick it off by asking one or two questions which people have asked us? One is that, everyone's looking at the Investor Protection Fund, which is with the National Stock Exchange. But if you look at the number of defaults that have been there, the amounts paid are very small. One of the reasons, as you said, Mr. Agarwal, is because, the broker has to be declared a defaulter. The second is in options and futures, very little is paid because they are only paying for trades that happen on the exchange. And they manage to keep out a whole lot of, investors. So I think people are first of all going to get just 25 lakhs each. And many of them, since this was a derivatives advisory, they're going to be out of it. Teji Mandi clients may not even be considered, though of course they have a power of attorney with Anugrah. Can you throw some light on what you think is going to happen there?
Yeah, Sumit?
Yeah. Ramesh, you want to go ahead?
See, Suchita, what I think is, the exchange is not going to declare them as a defaulter now, because then this protection, IPF and all will kick in. So I think we need to be very clear what we want to do, because even if they are ready to pay 25 lakhs, we don't want that. Because we want the full money to come, because this is a fraud. Okay. So Investor Protection Fund typically will come when there is a client default. See, what I believe is, if there is a huge client default resulting in the broker not honoring the settlement, so then all these things will happen to protect other investors. But in the case of a fraud, this cannot be a question of mere Investor Protection Fund being tapped. I want the Settlement Guarantee Fund itself to be touched and every single rupee paid back to these investors. Sumit, yours.
No, I agree. In fact, what is going to happen is, like in Kavi matter also, the declaration of default has taken its own time, and one doesn't know what are the various glitches there. However, having said that, I do not mean to make any remarks on the merits of any matter. But in this case, the way till now, there is no word in terms of the reconciliation of the claims or the assets available. The turning point would be when some agency, be it SEBI, National Stock Exchange, by itself or through an order of Securities Appellate Tribunal or High Court, is taking the responsibility to do some kind of either a forensic audit or a detailed investigation, so that at least numbers are frozen today till the time those numbers of claims versus available assets are identified, recovery will come only as a subsequent step. You can't have a recovery till the time this determination is made. Now,
Absolutely.
this determination made is the legal strategy which each client has to follow based on what was the scheme in which they were the participant. For instance, there are certain clients, and I'm only reading from the comments which are coming in this forum to Money Life Foundation. A particular investor has asked a question: what happens when I was giving my money to some entity who is alleged to be an associate of Anugrah in the form of a loan? Now, if I am giving money as a loan, how do I claim to be an investor? Where is the link of that money itself being used for the purposes of buying a position in FNO? So these are certain intricate questions which will differ from client to client, scheme to scheme. But broadly, everybody has to look towards making exchange, clearing corporation, and SEBI a party. Till the time you hear what is SEBI's stand and what is clearing corporation's stand and what has happened behind the curtains, you will not be able to ascertain how your recovery is going to happen, because till today you have a long way to first ascertain these numbers. I understand that investors are anxious, but we also need to understand as investors, if you are not careful in making your representation, relief anyways is difficult in these kind of matters, especially if assets are not available against whom you are claiming a recovery.
See, Sumit, what happens is, see, when the investors file a complaint with the SEBI, maybe we should in 2-3 days, if SEBI is not intervening, I think they should move SAT immediately and seek directions for NSE doing a forensic audit, or at least NSE and the clearing corporation revealing what happened, and then that will actually result in all these agencies getting together to reconcile the data. See, today
Absolutely.
investors themselves, they do not know whether they are plus or minus.
Absolutely.
I think in Karvi, what happened is they were ready with the data. See, in Karvi, when SEBI and NSE stepped in, they were already knowing what had happened. So here, nobody seems to be bothered. And if this is not happening, I think by the next week, I think by next Friday, we should move SAT. Typically, that is what I will tell my investors,
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
I see your point of view and I agree with that. But first come first, investors have to put in their claims in the stock exchange and the SEBI system and immediately move to Securities Appellate Tribunal.
Absolutely. Yes,
Over to you,
Suchita.
Suchita.
We'll now open it up for questions. Arvind, do you want to start by reading out some of the
Yes, ma'am. So we seem to have a lot of questions in the chat box also. It's a request, please post those questions in the general group so all of us can see. If you send it to me on personal, then others won't be able to see it and we have a tough time managing it. There's a question from Mr. Akshay Kumar who is saying, do participants in F&O get treated as investors for investor protection solutions? Okay, it can get answered at any time. Yeah, so sir, any one of you would like to?
Yeah, so I don't see a difficulty. Investor in equity as well as investor in FNO, both are considered to be investors in securities. And there is no difficulty in that front. At least laws do not discriminate.
Okay,
So
thank you.
there is another question which says that some of them investors think that you are not a part of this Ponzi scheme. I don't know whether there's a distinction between who was part of the Ponzi scheme and who wasn't, right? Because once it goes to a pool account, can you clarify what happens in a pool account? Do they decide who can be put there and who can't? Because we're talking about a fraud.
See, so if I can answer that, madam, what happens is, see, what I understand how this whole thing is structured is that all of them are trading through, they're all clients of Anugrah. And what Teji Mandi is doing is only executing orders. Okay, I think the way they pitched is that Teji Mandi will execute orders based on whatever algorithms and sort of covered options or whatever. That's the selling point they've used. And all the trading has happened through Anugrag. Okay, so to that extent, no, everyone will be covered through the exchange mechanism.
There's a question that somebody has asked in connection with that. Somebody is saying, Mr. Ashok is saying, in my case, I have no connection with Teji Mandi and I have been dealing with Anugraha for the last 10 years. So where do I stand?
No, see, typically all of them are broking clients. See, typically what happens is even if somebody is, see, we have to see what is the like what Sumit told. No, the whole issue is if individual, there will be some cases where they have a separate arrangement with this Womsai or something that will be different. But as far as all the orders executed through the Anugrag, even if Teji Mandi is there, see, Teji Mandi is either coming as an authorized person or a sub-broker is one. Or he is not even a sub-broker or authorized person, but he is an agent of this client, okay, because there may be some sort of arrangement. See, typically even if they are not, see, the power of attorney given to Anugrag cannot be used by Teji Mandi. Typically, they should have given a separate power of attorney to Teji Mandi to execute order. But what problem will happen is, so like in so many years, Teji Mandi would have been executing trades for them, which the investor is aware, Teji Mandi is aware, Anugrag is aware. Therefore, there will be a estoppel on the client to say, Teji Mandi is not my agent. See, Teji Mandi will be the agent of the client for the purpose of executing order. So once the order is on the system, the whole exchange system will get into the place. Therefore, what we need to do is, if there are investors who are now, even if they are been doing this trading, anybody having a trading through the stockbroker Anugrag will continue to be a client of Anugrag, and all these mechanisms will kick in.
Correct. In fact, I would go a step further to say that it can be treated as both ways, that the person who's in the middle can be even treated as an agent of the broker, while the client can also claim that the person who's in the middle is the agent of the client. So the principal agency relationship will remain on both sides, and there can't be a dispute as on today when it comes to paying up the liability is concerned.
Will there be a difference in the way an investment done by an NRI is treated and the investment done by an Indian investor is treated in this case? Somebody has asked a question in this regard. So
So as far as investor protection laws are concerned, even an NRI is as good as an Indian citizen because there is no discrimination. The laws in fact use the term any person. Now that any person includes your individual, non-individual, NRI, as well as an Indian citizen. If the system allows you to be an investor with a broker, it doesn't differentiate from what location.
So somebody has asked a very generic question. His question is, can you please highlight how this kind of fraud that has happened can be prevented, and how can people become more cautious? So before I can request our speakers to shed some light on this, Money Life Foundation does a lot of work on this. So my request would be to also check out the videos that we have been putting out in this regard, specifically on how to be more aware with your own investments. So you can have a look at that, and then maybe now if Rameshji or Agrawalji, if any one of you would like to share a couple of lines on this.
See, typically what happens now, there is a lot of now material available on what investors should do to protect their own interests. There is a lot of YouTube also is available. See, there are a lot of education material available. But the basic issue is that when you are dealing with your own money, you should not be seeing the returns, but you should see the safety part is the first thing, and documentation is the most important thing. See, most of these clients do not bother about documentation. So long as the checks are coming to their bank account, they're happy with that. I think that is where the fundamental problem happens. Even in the case of Teji Mandi, for example, if returns, they have given returns, but without a power of attorney, he has been executing trades. So today that will actually go against the client. See, when profits were being made, you are happy. But when Teji Mandi has incurred a loss on, you are assuming he's not even done a fraud. He's done a huge loss on your own account. You can't go back and deny the loss.
Correct.
So I think it's more to do with education and being very careful about what you do, because and documentation.
While a lot of information is available, and I'm just taking this further, a lot of information, even SEBI has made a tremendous amount of effort. We see even Money Life has been doing a lot of efforts in this aspect. Today, unfortunately, the psyche of a general investor also is that even a KYC, when it is done with a broker, a copy of KYC is also not kept. If a margin statement comes or any email comes, we do not see as long as the money is flowing in. And there is never a check whatever is coming from the depository system versus what is coming from the broker. There is at least, if not more, it can be a quarterly or a half yearly check can be done at an investor's end itself, because ultimately it is your own money.
Okay, thank you, sir. Somebody has asked a question that Anugrah, so even we published an article about this, that Anugrah used to maintain two separate ledgers. So somebody has asked, one was for the regulators and one was for the client. So one is how to address this issue, because they're not even clear which ledger is correct.
I think, see, the exchange will be able to only tell what trades are entered. Okay, the exchange will not have the ledger of the ledger of the broker. Therefore, what you need, I think a forensic audit will only throw up, because somebody has to match the bank records and the securities records. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. The forensic audit will be required to see which ledger is genuine, or both may be wrong. It is possible that both the records are wrong, and there will be a third one which is the genuine one.
But Rameshji, there an underlying assumption is that if there are some records which are still left.
So that's why I said, see, now you will have to actually generate the records from external sources. Okay, so one will be the exchange records, one will be maybe the bank records. So maybe a bigger investigation agency can only do it, or a good forensic auditor can do it actually. So, but that needs the power of SEBI to come in, because see, a lot of records can be summoned only by SEBI. Like I've seen in many big corporates also. See, now SEBI is ordering a forensic audit through external sources, like, even in the case of corporate issues. Therefore, it is good that if SEBI will step in and do a forensic audit.
So with all due respect, I know both of you have been from SEBI, but the problem with just depending on SEBI is that nothing is time bound. So, the NSE algo thing is going on for 5 years. I don't think investors who have lost money can afford to wait. So your point earlier about trying to make it an issue of fraud and going to a high court, asking for maybe a court monitored, time bound thing, where the clearing corporation is also made responsible. For instance, one of the things that I hear today is that the bank guarantee was defective. We don't know who gave the bank guarantee, whether it was the current one, ICICI is a clearing member, or was it Edelweiss. Now, none of these answers are forthcoming from anybody. So the broker is not able to provide records. NSE is not talking to people. SEBI is not going to talk to individuals. How on earth are they going to get material unless there is a court-ordered forensic audit, which is time-bound? Because otherwise you keep waiting for 5 years or more.
No, absolutely, Suchita. See, what happens now so because the way the law is structured now, you will have to first, your first platform is SEBI. And we know SEBI may not do anything immediately. So you go to SEBI and then you drag SEBI also into the High Court.
Okay.
I think that is the way we have to do. Otherwise, see, I am very sure there are a lot of investors whose only demat is stuck. We have to give a chance to SEBI to do similar Karvi type of action. If they are not doing, I think we move SAT or the High Court. We'll have to just see which are the agencies we need to drag, and as I said, no, High Court will be a better option maybe, and where there we can ask for a forensic, and maybe a very, very fast remedy, because unless you make it a national issue, these type of issues are not going to get solved.
And ultimately, the underlying still remains that here is an issue which pertains to dealing in securities and some allegation against a broker registered by SEBI. So even if it is a court monitored probe, ultimately the systems of SEBI will only throw information. So therefore SEBI is, like it or not, is an entity which has to be there in this probe. So that is why your first effort has to be to push SEBI to do investigation. And if that fails, perhaps go to High Court and have the High Court monitored probe.
See, we have to see whether SEBI will be a judicial forum or we have to make SEBI a respondent. It depends on how SEBI acts, you know. So we'll have to see that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Somebody has asked a question whether a broker is required to file a ledger balance of each investor with the exchange. If so, will I be able to know my ledger balance with the broker?
So ledger balances need not be uploaded. I think to my knowledge, no, the back office systems are not uploaded into the exchange platform. So only the margin statements and all these things are uploaded, but not the actual ledger balances.
No, individual client ledger may not be available, but what we can perhaps also see is February 2020 itself, there was a press release from SEBI that SEBI has developed an in-house mechanism to find out any mismatch in terms of a margin requirement or the client's funds and securities. So all the information from the depository side, DP side, broking side is available on the SEBI's database warehousing system or integrated market surveillance system. So at that level, perhaps they will be able to do this kind of a testing. But at an exchange level, to have an individual client ledger, I don't think that is there as on today.
You know, some investors have been sending messages saying that they can see cash on their account, and some say that we can see shares are available. Now, we don't know whether what they can see is a forged account, or a fake one, which Anugrah is showing, or a genuine one. They say they're not able to recover these shares or the cash, and they don't know how to proceed. Would you have any advice for them? Is it possible, or they just have to wait?
See, typically what happens, I think on a weekly basis or something, exchange sends a SMS on client funds and securities, what the broker reported. Okay, the exchange doesn't give it on its own. So it says X broker reported your client balance and your fund balance and securities balance is so much. Now it all depends on what he has reported. I think every investor would have been having this type of information with them. But typically, everything depends on what the broker is uploading on the system. If he has fudged his records and whatever he is informing the exchange, which is exchange is again reverting back to the investor, it is of no help to us,
Okay.
So I think we can take a couple of questions from the audience also. Nitin Nikumji, can you please unmute yourself?
Thank you. I am Nitin Nikumba, one of the affected investors. See, I saw through the presentation one of the most important document that all of us have is the dividends which have been credited by Anugrah repeatedly into our bank accounts. So as recent as month of April, May, June, July, when all the dividends were accrued into our ledgers, and from there Anugrah and through Teji Mandi has arranged the credit of all those dividends into individual client accounts. All these dividends are with respect to the quantity of each share and the holding per se in that account. So it actually is sufficient to establish the fact that all of us who are holding certain number of scrips and the quality of scripts. So both facts get established by just ensuring that our bank accounts will show that kind of a credit entry. So even that can be a starting point for all of us to establish the fact that we actually held those many shares as recently as the entry in the bank accounts. So will that be sufficient? Was the first question. Secondly, we have been talking about approaching SEBI and the NSE, etc. So I have personally raised a complaint to NSE and also I have raised with SEBI. But NSE, when I got a call, actually I got also call from NSE, and they said that even if you approach SEBI, the SEBI will forward this complaint to NSE only for investigation. So what is the actual factual position? Do we need to approach both the entities? And last question was,
sir, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to restrict you to 2 questions because there are a lot of people here with questions. I'm really sorry for that. But if we can request our speakers to shed light on these 2 questions.
So I think as far as the dividend point is concerned, it's a very good point, because it obviously gives the credibility that you were owner of that particular security. Otherwise, the dividend wouldn't have come. But that alone may not be sufficient, because there are in fact cases where somebody may even claim if the entire books were fraudulent, the transfers have also happened fraudulently. So it will play out. What is your strategy? Are you claiming to be a victim of a fraud, or are you claiming that some securities are there which have been stolen, and those securities which you are required to be given back are not being given back? This is the answer to question number 1. As far as question number 2 is concerned, I think what is happening inside SEBI and NSE, none of us are aware. However, the way we see in our experience, SEBI will kick in. It is only a matter of time. But let me also add a caveat, and I completely agree with Mr. P.R. Ramesh, that SEBI alone has its own limitations also. In the cases of fraud, assuming if SEBI is also doing its investigation and SEBI hits a roadblock in terms of not getting a particular information, then what? So therefore, this High Court monitored inquiry or the enforcement agencies exploring that option will be viable, but not as on today, perhaps sometime later.
Thank you for that. So you've mentioned that you can approach SEBI and Economic Offences Wing and a couple of other agencies, but somebody asked, can we approach the IBC also for this? So
if you don't want to get any money, you approach.
Before Mr. P.R. Ramesh answers, my sense is I think that will be a disastrous act, at least for the investors from my point of view.
Yeah.
No, even that's what I'm saying. So if you don't want to get money, we approach IBC. So we should not approach IBC at all. And I don't know, say these financial institutions now, they need approval to, in case you want to go to IBC. See, now IBC anyway is suspended till, because of the COVID, all these operations are suspended. I think they are not hearing also anything except, very urgent or some of these old cases. So
moreover,
IBC,
if it was the other side, they would have rather wanted you to go in IBC, so that once I am declared as an insolvent or bankrupt, all of these claims which are in securities, which are not even secured claims, because in the waterfall or in the distribution of assets, an equity holder or an FNO holder does not even have any priority, or it's the least of the priority, because you are not secured.
Okay. I think it's a very clear answer on clear no on that. There's another question that somebody has asked. Since Anugrah is not responding, can we request CDSL to transfer our balance securities lying with them?
yeah, I think what they have to do is they have to go to another DP and give the transfer form and see whether it is happening or it is not happening. If it is not happening, then the process of complaining to CDSL, all this should happen. I was told Anugrah is asking people to close the accounts. I think you should not close any of the account with Anugrah, because they will try to manipulate the records then. What you should do is first, wherever if they are still seeing the DP in their other DP through, they can get it transferred. That will be the best thing to do.
Okay. Somebody is asking, as an individual investor, how do I move to the SAT?
See, anybody can, you file larger complaint with SEBI, SEBI is not responding, anyone can move that. You can be an individual investor with a very small 1,000 rupees also due to you, you can move that. There is no such rule that you have got to be a particular size.
Except that will be 2 steps, right? And for an individual
yeah.
this time would be counterproductive. It will have much more force if they go as a group, isn't it?
No, definitely. That is but no, I'm trying to answer legally whether an individual can go. Legally you can go, but practically you have to go as a group. That's why Sumit had suggested, and I also proposed that all of you should actually go on the SEBI and NSE, BSE sites and dump all your complaints. And if it is possible, gather a forum and then fight it out.
See, just to put one more thing so that investors are also well. In law, you can go to Securities Appellate Tribunal when there is an order by SEBI against you. You are aggrieved by a SEBI order. But equally, when you have filed your complaint with SEBI and SEBI is required to look into, and SEBI has not looked into it, it is considered to be an order which is adverse against you because your prayer has not been granted. On that legal technical ground, you can go to Securities Appellate Tribunal. Second is the matter which is going on between Anugrah and National Stock Exchange. In that, you can file an intervention application and make yourself a party to be heard, because ultimately it is your interest in which the matter is being heard.
Except that the next date for it is October 14th. So can an intervener ask for urgent hearing, or we'll have to wait till October 14th?
See, when the date of hearing will be given, that is completely decided by the Securities Appellate Tribunal. If in an application there is an urgent ground which you can say that something is going to change today, between today and the next date of hearing, then definitely you are likely to get a hearing.
We'll now take a question from the audience also. Mr. Anand Saria, can you please unmute yourself? Yeah, I think Mr. Anand Saria is not there. So we'll move on to the next question.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can hear you.
Yeah. My question is that the holding statement that Anugrah was sending every day has that securities and the cash balance. And now we are
Mr. Saria, we lost you in the
even
middle.
the site of Anugrah and see that it's okay. Hello. So my question is that till 5th of August, we were getting the statements from Anugrah, which was matching with their website. But now we are not able to open their website and see what is there. And the second question is, what about the investors who are outside Indore, outside Mumbai?
Yeah. So there's a similar question that has come, that since Anugrah has discontinued their website and people are not able to log in to see their documents and demat holding, so how can they get a copy of the document?
This is going to be a problem, and you have to rely on whatever the last document you had, and that is why you have to complain to SEBI that you are not able to get the document, and also to directly approach CDSL or NSDL and see what is my holding. I think that is also to be done by each investor. But regarding funds, yes, you will not know at all till we are able to reconcile the data. At least securities, somebody else is holding like a backup document, so you will be able to know whether any securities are today lying in your DP, in your client ID or not.
Okay. And somebody has asked, what will happen to the pledged shares? Will I be able to recover that?
No, you will not be able to recover any securities, no, because pledged share means it is, see, he is pledged with the bank, so the bank's rights are there, and we don't know whether the shares are still there or it is sold. So the first right will be with the lender only, and then you will, even if assuming it is available, it will come back to you. So there is going to be a lot of issues. Like if it is, it all depends on whether the client is also a debit client or a credit client.
Okay. We've also received a couple of questions about the mutual
There's
funds.
One question that I want to ask.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know, one question.
Yes, ma'am.
which is that Om Shri Sai Investments. There are a lot of investors who have given a loan, and there is another, I think, which is AR, which is given to Teji Mandi. So those who have given their money as a loan directly, I think their option would be only to go to the Bombay High Court, because there's no point in them writing to SEBI or SAT. Or do you still think that that's a possibility?
I think that is not a possibility. If they are giving a loan, and they must be having some loan document or something, and we will have to see what does the loan document say. See, for example, if it says that, or it's a tripartite document saying I'm giving a loan to like Womsai, and Womsai is going to use this money for the purpose of trading and all, we'll have to see whether how it is structured as a tripartite agreement or a multipartite. And otherwise, a pure loan agreement with a fixed return, no, it becomes like an unsecured deposit. So then maybe MPID Act only has to be invoked, or then all the EOW agencies will come in. So we have to see. And it all depends on what is the size of this type of transaction. See, if EOW has to take it seriously, they will look at a few 100 crores of fraud. You know, otherwise they will not have time. It will be going to a smaller police station, and nothing will happen there.
So EOW don't look at individual complaints at all, I think, unless they are like 50 or 100 crores. They have a benchmark above it.
Yeah, I think 100 crores is what EOW will see.
And MPID is only under EOW. So MPID will not be applicable unless they pull together and they can come up with a sum like this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the one is that is the criminal side, but then jointly they can even proceed. For a civil suit, they have to simultaneously proceed for recovery. Attach all the assets of Womsai also. I don't know if that is this quantum of the funds stuck with through Womsai, we have to see. So because we have to make them party and attach their assets also, no? Their assets, the assets of the directors and everybody. That relief we have to seek very quickly, because so they may try to say, I was seeing some message, somebody is trying to run away and all. I don't think today there are no flights to run away. Vande Bharat flights, is it not? Fortunately now.
Thank you, sir. A couple of people have asked questions about their mutual funds that they have with Anugrah. So can you maybe speak for a minute on the mutual fund holdings that they have here?
See, whether it's mutual funds or any securities, now what they have to do, they have to get it transferred to another DP. See, because I think if you want to do a redemption request also, they will have to go through the DP with whom it is now stuck. So we'll have to see whether whether it has been used up. See, these investors have to approach the fund, the AMC, and ask, or the registrar of the AMC, and ask whether it is still lying in their folio or it is already moved out of their folio. That is the first thing they have to do. If it is still lying in their folio, so they have to try to get a transfer to another DP. If that is not possible, then I think you have to approach the depository to do the transfer.
We'll take a question from the audience also now. Mr. Subhash Yadav, can you please unmute yourself and share your question? Okay. Okay, Mr. Subhash Yadav is not there.
Hello.
Okay. Please go on.
How you are going to help in this matter? I mean, you Moneyline. How Moneyline will be helping us?
Okay, I think before I ask ma'am or anyone else to answer, I'll just put forward. We are not actually directly filing any petition or anything. We've put together this place with our speakers so that they can shed light on what the issue is. And we've also created a action group on Telegram where people who've been aggrieved by this have joined, where they can get some detail from this. But we are not directly going to be filing anything on your behalf. We're not doing anything of that nature. So Moneylife is not directly involved in this, in that sense.
That's right. I have nothing else to add, but I was just seeing from the comments that we have Mr. P.K. Nagpal here. Would you like to say anything? Or is it just a number?
Okay, I think he's not.
Okay, next.
Can Ms. Radhika please unmute herself and pose her question?
This is actually Radhika's husband, Jaidev.
Yeah.
Yeah. So me and Radhika are together in this. We are actually there is a bunch of investors that we are representing, is close to about 610 of them, and the numbers already crossed 190 crores. So this we have collected data over the last about 48 hours, and the numbers are only increasing. I'm getting a lot of calls from people all over. One guy from Dehradun called today saying it's 6 crores. So the long story short, the number is comfortable for EOW to get involved. Somebody else. Okay. So from a priority, what we have been talking, we spoke to the people. They always are coming back to a silly point saying that our servers got confiscated by NSE about 3-4 days back. So even if Anugrah wants to kind of open up the servers, there is no way to open up because NSE has taken those servers. Therefore, the data will not be available indefinitely. So we don't know if NSE has confiscated the servers. What is the outcome of that? It is just to ensure that there is no manipulation, or there is an outcome that NSE will put up these data and say, okay, this is what their data says, this is what our data says. There should be some reconciliation, how much, what has gone wrong. Now, everybody in my system is trying to reconcile that 5 years of contract notes, every month statement to what NSE did and what NSE email came, what this email came. It's a nightmare to reconcile, and we don't even know whether the Anugrah statement is actually right or wrong. So somebody has to take ownership saying that, okay, this whole thing that has gone wrong is a 300 crore scam, 400 crore scam.
Sir, I'm sorry to cut you short, but can you please get to the question a little quicker because we have.
So what is the, from priority perspective, what will, even if we get a hearing, how will it get solved? Because everybody's saying it's a big mess, it's a big mess. There are people who are saying, I invested 4 months back, 3 months back when this mess was not even there. Will I get the money because I'm not even involved in this mess? The mess happened 3 years back. March 2020, a lot of things went wrong. People have invested in July, June. At least from a priority perspective, can they be addressed first?
That's not quite correct, and it will have to be done jointly. I think Mr. Ramesh and Mr. Agarwal will be able to throw light on this.
See, firstly, my view is that NSE has no right to confiscate. They cannot take away the server. They can take a backup copy or anything. They are not a police authority who can simply take away everything in the room. So I have doubts on what Anugrah is telling. Maybe they have the servers with them. They don't want to open it or throw because it will show a different picture than what has been projected. Okay. So only NSE, as I know, will only take a backup copies and for their own audits and investigations and all. So this is the first thing regarding the servers. So regarding the other issue of taking action, what is going to happen if what orders you will get? You will have to get an order. See, there will be, as I mentioned, there will be different types of investors. One whose securities are there and so they can try to get their investors with a Karvi type of order. Then whether your funds are, somebody gave funds in June, July or in the end of July. So you will stand in the same line as everybody else. Therefore, it's better to fight jointly.
No, absolutely. I think the joint action will be more effective and there are quicker chances also because ultimately all the claims put together will go in the system.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Somebody has asked a procedure to file a complaint with the SEBI without knowing the balance in the ledger. So is there something for that?
No, so there is a website called scores.gov.in, which is SEBI complaint redressal system. All you need to do is, it's like opening your Gmail account. Filing a complaint with SEBI is far easier process than perhaps getting a relief. When I say this, especially I'm saying with a caveat in a matter like this. So as far as procedure for filing a complaint is concerned, all you need to do is just go check out this website scores.gov.in. On that, create a user ID and password and put in the complaint with whatever information you have. If you do not have the information, fill in saying that you do not have the information and you seek to receive this information. That's all.
No, absolutely. See, not knowing the ledger balance itself is a complaint.
Okay. Also, can you just mention the section under which they can place this complaint? Is there a specific section or?
For making a request for making a complaint, you don't require any section whatsoever.
Okay.
There is no format of a complaint also.
I think they're talking about which page in SEBI. I think if you just go to SEBI website, or you just Google scores, you will get it actually.
Are you talking about a legal section, or are you talking about the part on SEBI website where can you file it?
In SEBI website.
Broadly mentioned complaint, but I think what sir has mentioned is, I think we can just mention that it's on the website and they can use it from the website.
Correct.
Absolutely.
On homepage itself, it is there.
We'll move on to the next question from Mr. Sunny. So can you please unmute yourself, Mr. Sunny?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. Thank you for having this session. So my query is basically I had raised a question as to how to approach the SAT and not whether we can approach the SAT. My query, because you have in the NSE you have the ISC website and you have the scores for SEBI. Once that is done, do we have a website for SAT to where we can we can have that intervening order, or how should we move about it? This is the first question. And second question is with respect to that the shares, as per the claim, what we have been hearing, that the clearing member has sold the shares to clear the positions of trading member. So is the clearing member also because they receive all the data? I mean, the trading member uploads all the data to the exchange, which has the margin-wise details. And I believe that even the clearing member has access to it. So if clearing member sells the shares, because they must be knowing individual client-wise, so are they party to it? Have they exceeded their powers? Is my second question.
Ramesh, do you want to take up this question?
Yeah. See, what I am saying is, when you want to file an appeal before SAT, you have to typically file it like in a regular case. You are lodging a complaint with SEBI exchange, they don't answer. So you will have to file a case before SAT. When you say how, that is how it is done. You will have to draft an appeal. There is a SEBI proceedings are there, SAT appellate proceedings rules are there. So you will have to see those rules, and there is a format given in which the appeal has to be filed. You have to file the appeal, and either you can appear personally or you can appear through an advocate. And also, I think there is in this type of cases, I think there is a question of 5,000 rupees or something to be paid as a fees to SAT for the appeal. And then currently SAT is asking you to file some other applications for urgent relief and all this stuff. So you will have to do all that. So typically this is basically and then now currently SAT is giving a video conference hearing. So you have to press for urgent hearing in this matter. So regarding the other question is, Sumit, you would like to see?
Yeah, so as far as procedure is concerned, one addition there that these days, in fact, electronic filing can also be made. All you need to do is just contact the Registrar of Securities Appellate Tribunal. The website is sat.gov.in, sat.gov.in. You have the details and the email address of the registrar also, where you can post your intervention application or an appeal. As far as the second question is concerned, whether clearing member has created any kind of illegality by selling those securities. Well, the answer lies in the negative, that if the clearing corporation, if they have to do the risk monitoring system, and if some securities which are available at their end, and if they didn't know that it is fraudulent or not, what they could have done to reduce the risk. Ultimately, it is their responsibility, so they had to sell it. Now, the question really will become whether the clearing member was in collusion with Anugrah or not. Without that kind of an allegation or without that kind of a fact being available, I don't think it will be fair to say that the clearing member simpliciter by selling by that act is on default.
See, there is a larger issue here. See, what has happened is, see, most of the investors are trading through Anugrah. Okay, now Anugrah must be executing, even if Teji Mandi is used, it must be executing the order in the each investor's client account, client code. Okay, so this client code gets uploaded into the clearing member system, and whatever is the margins, it's getting uploaded. Now, we really do not know whether this was done or it was all bundled up in one pool or a prop account where the entire trading has happened, and whatever the margins which are given by clients, they were actually pulled up and given as a margin for that client code. So it all depends on what client code was used. And then maybe if somebody was telling about dividend distribution, maybe what I think is what they would have done is they were running a sort of a portfolio scheme. So where they will take 1 crore from a client, pull it into one prop account, and from that prop account they must be distributing money. So whatever profits are coming, they must be saying it as a dividend and doing. So we do not know what is the modus operandi they have done. So this can be done only by NSE, which has the client codes. So investors have to check. See, investors have been getting a lot of this information to them, including the last open position they must be knowing. Now we have to see whether that open position is genuinely relating to their client code or it is relating to somebody and it is in the back office, it is distributed. So like in a PMS scheme, they distribute the, when you give a portfolio statement. So they'll say you are having 15 Infosys, 5 Reliance and all. Like that, whether they are done like that, we don't know. So somebody has to look at the client code mechanism of the Anugrah with the exchange. So this is what will throw the modus operandi.
Thank you for that, sir. We've been receiving a lot of questions. I was just scrolling through the sections and a lot of people have asked which broker do we trust. So actually, I don't think we can recommend on which broker to trust and whom not to trust. But what I could recommend is you can check out the videos that we have put up in our own YouTube channel. We've put up a lot of videos on how to be a little more safer and smarter with your money, be it in investments, be it shares, trades, and so on and so forth. So you can have a look at our videos and, regularly other news bites also, which can give you maybe some information on that. I think ma'am also wanted to share something.
No, not on this, but there are a lot of people who want to know how to contact both of you. So can we share your email ID or numbers? How do people connect with you, Mr. Agarwal and Mr. Ramesh?
No, definitely they can contact me. See, I basically act as a counsel and most of the time I don't file myself. So I will recommend them to a lot of my other colleagues and other firms with whom I work. But they can definitely contact me and we will get it done.
Shall we ask them to email you or can we ask them to write to us and then send it? How do we do it?
Whichever way they can email me directly or you can consolidate. I don't know if you are able to do that also. That will also be good.
We'll put it up on the Telegram group. What about you, Sumit? How do they contact you?
So we have our law firm email ID, info@ragaselli.com. And on that, anybody jointly, individually, in whatever way they want to approach. And if at your end, if you can collate all the concerns together and all the people together, that will be fantastic.
Okay. So we will put up your law firm's details also on the Telegram group. That will be the best way. Okay. Or people can write to us at foundation@moneylife and we'll provide this information.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah. The link to the Telegram channel has also been provided. So you can join the Telegram group also in case you're not already part of it. I think we're at 6:50, so we just have to take a couple more questions and I'm going to have to just request you to wait for 5 more minutes. Mr. Prakash, can you please unmute yourself?
Yeah, thanks. My question is, in the absence of the account statement and also the fact that we may not have the POA document because it was executed a few years ago, just the margin statement of 4th August, which shows the security and the cash balance plus the balance sheet sent to us on 31st of March. Would that be sufficient documentation for us to proceed in the matter?
Yes, of course. Once you are having a margin statement or a ledger statement from the broker, you can proceed based on those documents.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Next question is from Mr. Rakesh Bhatia. Mr. Bhatia, can you please unmute yourself?
Yeah, hi.
Yeah.
Are you able to hear?
Yeah, please proceed.
Yeah, so sir, I had this question. There is a lot of talk in the media about the clearing member Edelweiss being involved. And as Ramesh sir also mentioned, and I think Sumit sir also mentioned, that the investigations are not, the allegations are not is something which NSE can do that. But let's say that if that is proved, then in that case, we as an investor have a case against Edelweiss? Because what we have been also told by media, there is a similar case of V Rise Securities where the NSE told the Edelweiss to return those shares to the investors.
See, again, as I mentioned, no, it all depends on what is the type of problems which are there in this matter. There will be different type of issues. One will be a straightforward case of securities not being returned. There will be a different type of cases where there is a F&O position open, closed out and all. So, typically, before we we make any comments on Edelweiss or anybody else, we'll have to see what role they played. Okay, whether assuming that I know there are genuinely a lot of clients may have lost. Okay, also when clients were making money when the markets were good, when the markets were turned adverse in March, April, and all, Teji Mandi would have actually incurred a lot of losses in the client account itself. So we have to see what exactly is the extent of this problem, and then if as I mentioned to you, if the client code itself was genuinely put and there was loss was incurred there, so then Edelweiss or any other clearing member may not have a problem. Okay, so because their own securities would have been pledged and all. So the forensic audit will only throw light on what is the role played by each of these parties, and also what is the modus operandi used in this type of fraud.
Thank you, sir. There's a question from Mr. Ayush. So can you please unmute yourself and share your question?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you, Mr. Ayush.
Sir, I have two questions. Number one is how do we make ourselves a party for an investor protection fund? Will that be applicable in this particular type of case? Number two, if every document to Edelweiss was correct, can Edelweiss sell shares more than the losses incurred? I assume there is a loss of 100. He is allowed to sell shares to the extent of ₹100 to recover that losses. But can he sell more than that, assuming the data with Edelweiss is correct?
There are two aspects to it. And let me take this question further. We are trying to reach to the second stage of recovery, and that can happen whether from a clearing member or investor protection fund, only if the first leg of investigation is full. And that is why, as on today, any view on this will only be speculative. And let me not bite my words to say that this anxiety, of course, is going to remain till the time all of you as a collective group are able to push either SEBI or High Court or SET, whatever route you take, and get investigation completed to reconcile the numbers. Unless that data is there, to make any view in terms of the liability will only be speculative.
Ramesh, do you want to share something on this?
No, I agree with Sumit. Currently, see, without knowing exactly what happened now, we will not be able to comment on anything. As I told, see, the losses could have been genuine also. Now, how do you know what happened?
Correct.
I think we should not go by what the press is saying. Press may be right, may not be right and all, but we'll have to go by factual data emanating from the court. See, so if you want to get the information, I think the best way is to pressurize SEBI, NSE, exchanges directly first, and then through SAT to let them come out on. So let all these agencies come on record and say what to do, because then we can take the next step.
Correct. Unfortunately, and let's all also understand, there has been regulatory experience of SEBI as well as stock exchanges where people have claimed selling of more shares than required, and this allegation has been made only as an afterthought. So unless all of this has been reconciled, making a view will be difficult.
But legally, no. Legally speaking, one small thing. The one small thing on the question is, if I have to pay 100, the clearing member can sell securities only to the extent of 100. If he has sold more, then the balance money has to come back to you. There is no doubt about it. And then you see, you may say, like, assuming it's some sort of a security where, he has to sell the complete portfolio for some reason. So that doesn't happen normally. But if it has happened, and if it has incurred a loss for you, then naturally you can even question the clearing member to revert that loss also back. Assuming you sold some more shares and the price has gone up, so you may try to claim that differential also. So these are the things we'll have to do, but that will be done through arbitration. See, because there is no dispute. So let us be very clear. If the client has a debit balance and the securities are closed because of a closeout, which is the right of the clearing member and the trading member to close out a position to recover a client balance. And if there is a dispute arising out of that, you sold more shares, I would have held it, I would have paid. See, this becomes a dispute which is subject to the arbitration. There is no fraud in this type of cases.
Thank you, sir. So one final question, and then we'll have to wrap up with that. Tanvi Kale, can you please share your question?
Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so my question is, I had halted the trading in my account a couple of, at the start of the pandemic, around somewhere between March, April. So I want to know, since, although it was halted, still my shares were sold off. So, is there a chance of me getting back the shares, or how can I proceed further?
Of course, because if you have stopped trading and and you should have a return instructions for stopping the trading. And then if any other position was taken, assuming Teji Mandi was executing orders for you, or you are executing orders directly. If Teji Mandi was doing, you should have a clear-cut evidence of instructing him to stop trading. If you are doing trading directly, then there is no issue if you had stopped trading and no contract notes were generated later, but you still don't find your securities today, then it amounts to fraud. Your securities have been misappropriated, and we will have to initiate proceedings for fraud. And you will get it back through whichever mechanism we are proposing,